we, everybody? We're all good? Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Really do, me and Ryan really do appreciate our fans and for people like yourselves paying good money and taking time out of your day to come and see us is a very humbling privilege.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess today we're here to sort of dive into Ryan's life a little bit and see what it's like prepping for Mr. Olympia, which is what you've got coming up in how many weeks, how many months?
So not that I'm counting, 26 weeks and 1 day.
So yeah. 26 weeks and 1 day to the dot. Tell us your accolades so far, Ryan. So like, what have you won so far in your career?
Right, okay, so I've been in the industry now, I've been competing for over 12 years, or 13 years. And I've won Mr. Great Britain, UK Nationals, British Finals. I've won the Arnold Classic, Arnold Schwarzenegger, his show 3 times in Europe, Britain and in America. I've won the Asia Grand Prix 4 times. I've won the IFBB Pro League shows, over 20 shows. And I've placed second in the Mr. Olympia, which is the biggest show in the world. So yeah, I've still not got that #1 spot yet, but that's kind of the goal now.
So Mr. Olympia is your #1 goal in your career? Is that like the top thing to do?
Yeah, so basically when I started my career, all I ever wanted to do was start at the bottom, and then every show I ever did was a better tier, so to speak, to keep rising through the ranks. So every time a show came up what was more prestigious or better than the one that I'd competed in, I wanted to win that title, be the first guy to win it and set legacies, shall we say. And I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve. I've won everything I want to achieve. There's only one show left, which is the Olympia. And unfortunately, I've qualified 6 times and I've placed 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd and 2nd. So I need first, and I can bow out gracefully.
So it's a once a year show?
Once a year show, and it's basically the best of the best in the world. So yeah.
So for the last 6 years, or 5 years, you've done 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd.
Yeah.
So you've literally gained a place a year.
No. So not in that order.
Right. Okay. You're getting closer. In general, you're getting closer.
Yeah. So
okay.
It's been amazing.
No, good to hear.
Yeah.
What's talk us through like what kind of prep goes into a Mr. Olympia? Obviously, it's like an all year round thing.
Yeah.
You don't just train for. It's not like some sports where you can just pick up for 12 weeks and get going.
No.
You've got to do like
definitely.
X amount of weeks of bulking, X amount of weeks of cutting.
Yeah.
Talk us through your bulking phase, your cutting phase, how many weeks out are you doing those sort of things?
Yes. So I've trained now as a bodybuilder, so to speak, for over 20 years. I started when I was 14, I'm 33 now. And I've lived the life 365 days of each year. And you can see I'm not meant to be a big guy. Genetically, I'm not built like yourself. I never will be, but I eat 6 to 7 solid meals a day, all high carb meals. So for instance, my daily nutritional value will be oats in the morning, 120 grams with blueberries, bananas, 50 grams of peanut butter, 2 scoops of whey protein, and then every 2 hours I'll have, in a day I have 2 fillet steaks, 2 salmon fillets, 3 chicken breasts, 4 eggs, all with rice, white potato, sweet potato, and this has been like this for 20 years. I've ate like this for 20 years, so it's it's quite monotonous, it's very similar every day, but you have to live and breathe bodybuilding, and that's kind of what I've done. So when you start prep, I'm technically in prep all year because, like you say, you have an off season where you can relax on your diet a little bit, but it's all about getting that mass amount of calories in and really trying to push the weight up so you're in a more anabolic state. And then obviously when you start dieting, I normally start dieting around 16 weeks, and that's where you count every calorie that goes in and every expenditure as well. So also your cardio and your weight training.
So you bulk all year. I mean, obviously the Olympia is only one show.
Yeah.
So how many shows are you doing a year?
So in my early career, when I was trying to build my name up and win these titles to get myself a good credit for the Olympia, I was competing all year. I was competing at the Arnolds in March, and June, July I'd be in Asia doing Asia Grand Prix, and then I'd be in America in September. But as the divisions evolved, they're getting bigger and bigger. These guys are like monsters now. They're in their early 20s. So for me to stand next to those guys, I have to have off seasons. I have to not, because when you're competing, when you're in a deficit constantly, no matter how good you are, you will always eat into muscle tissue when you're down to those like last percentages of fat, because your body needs fat to survive. It doesn't need muscle to survive. So when you're in those last parts of prep, it's so hard to keep that muscle, because it just turns to muscle for energy, so it'll start burning that. So I've found the last 2 years I've had to have longer breaks off to hold more size. But I've had 6 weeks off training at the minute. We just briefly spoke about it, but I've had a little bit of an injury and I've had to have 6 weeks off, and I've dropped 15 pounds in weight like that, just from coming off my diet, having 3 or 4 meals and going on holiday with the family. So it is very regimented, and you have to be all year.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds pretty tough. Prepping, so as you say, you've got a competition in March, some in the summer, and then some at the end of the year. So doing that bulking and cutting phase is pretty tough. So you're doing like 3 or 4 weeks of bulking and then a sort of 16-week cut sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's not healthy for you as well, because when you're yo-yoing in weight, it's not good for the metabolism. It's not good for anybody. So I'm in, like I say, the latter part of my career with competing, and the only title I really want to get is that Olympia title. So I want to give every shot I can, and that is giving my body a rest, giving my metabolism a rest, and then going again.
You just talked us through your diet that you pretty much do 365 days a year.
Yeah.
When you're bulking, I mean, when I'm bulking, we're talking family cheesecakes, we're talking 20-inch pizzas. What sort of things do you eat when you're bulking? Because you still eat healthy, or do you put stuff like that?
Yeah, so my general senses, or the way I look at it, I still eat my clean meals, so I still have my 6 meals, but obviously I don't want to be counting calories all year round, and I don't want to be eating that clean where you're not enjoying your food, having a social life and stuff. So on the off season, I'll incorporate all my meals. So I'll have fillet steak, but instead I'll have ribeye steak and stuff like that. But then I'll add sauces, all extra calories, cheese, that kind of stuff, whatever I want to do to be able to switch off and not feel like I'm on prep. So I'm still getting my calorific,
healthy foods.
Yeah, my macros in, but at the same time, I'm switching up. I've got a young family now as well, so I don't want to be that guy who's like in a restaurant with his Tupperware weighing his food out and stuff. So, as I've got further on into my career, I know you don't have to do that at all. So I've just been away for 2 weeks and stuff, and on holiday, all inclusive. I was making sure I still got my meals in, but I was in Turkey, so I was having a lot of
nice. So you got a little boy?
Yes, so I've got a little boy. He's 1 year old now.
Is that the only, just one for now?
Just the one for now, but yeah, I'd like some more in the future.
Nice. And how have you found doing all this business and being a dad as well? Because it's tough. You pick him up, take him to nursery.
Yeah. So I've got to admit that was the biggest shock of my life, basically. And anybody who's a dad will know, obviously, or a parent. Overnight, it changes everything, doesn't it? And they become the sole purpose of what you're there for, to provide for them. And as a bodybuilder, it's the most selfish sport on this planet. Even if you don't want it to be, you've got to think about your meals. They come first. Your rest, your sleep, they come second. Your training comes third. Whereas when you have this little boy who's dependent on you, everything, he comes first. So I remember I was doing my last Olympia, and he was 12 weeks old, and it was horrendous. I was getting like a couple of hours sleep. I was missing all my meals, and then at like 10 o'clock at night, I was trying to do my cardio, get 3 meals in, and my weight training. And it just, it was difficult. But now he's a little bit older. We're going to a routine. He works on my side at the minute, touch wood, and I'm managing to cope quite well now, really well.
No,
and he gives you another purpose as well. Like before, it was all about, I won't say glory hunting, but I just wanted to be the best in my field. Whereas now it's about providing for him, giving him a good life. I didn't have a bad life growing up, but I never got the finer things, and I'd love to be able to give them to him, and also for him to say his dad was Mr. Olympia one day. Like that for me is
awesome.
It might not mean anything to him, but to me that means a lot.
So Mr. Olympia is the dream.
Yeah.
I suppose the ultimate goal, Mr. Olympia, but how many? Like when do you draw the line? because I drew a line in my career when I won the World's Strongest Man, but where do you draw the line? Is there a target? Is there like X amount of Olympia titles or just the one? You know, everyone's got a goal and they want to achieve something, you know, the target, and then sort of step back and enjoy themselves, because I know more than anybody that, you know, there's 365 days a year, the diet, the training, the sacrifice of family time.
Definitely.
It definitely takes a toll on you mentally, more so than physically. So what's the target for you?
Yeah, I think for me, I would be happy with what you did. Like you always said, you wanted to be world's strongest man, and then you'll bow out gracefully, and you've achieved what you wanted to achieve. And I feel like that would be the same for me. It's hard because I love competing. It's not something like I want to win it once and then walk away. Like, because it's been my life for 20 years, as it has for you, it must be hard, and this is what I'll ask you actually, it must be hard to walk away, because that's something I'm a bit fearful of, because it's the unknown. I don't know when I step back where I'll have a purpose, because I've always been regimented in my food. It's never been an obsession, it's always what I've known. I've always had a good social life, I've always done everything I wanted to do, but bodybuilding has always been at the forefront of it. So to step back from that competitive side, that's what I'm a bit scared of, to be honest. But yeah, I'd love to just win the Olympia and then we'll see. But I'm 33 now, and obviously in bodybuilding it's not a lot. It's not old. Jay Cutler won it when he was 33, his first Olympia. But I'm realistic. I'm looking around at some of these guys here in their early 20s, still in the teens. They're built like shit houses. So I'm not like that. I'm getting to the So yeah, I'm realist. I don't want to hang on. I want to get in, do the job, and get out.
Fair enough. The human body peaks usually in size and strength at about 30 years of age.
Yeah.
So, you know,
that's so true, because the moment I turned 30, I've had every injury under the sun. Up till 30, I felt invincible. I turned 30, I've had everything. But what about yourself? That is a question I'm going to fire back at you then. When you won, obviously, World's Strongest Man, how hard was it to walk away, to say, I'm done? Because that has been your life for 10, 15, 20 years. To then say, I'm done.
I mean, it was tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be brutally honest, it was tough. I mean, you obviously dedicate your whole life to one sole being target.
Yeah.
Achieve the dream, so to say. And I made the promise to myself and the promise to my wife and kids, really, that I was going to win it once and walk away for them, because it is so unhealthy. It drains you mentally and physically. You have to sacrifice not only, you know, all the eating and whatever abuse you're doing to your body, it's sacrificing family time, and that's the hardest thing to take.
100%.
Is, you know, oh, we're going out for a meal tonight, oh, I can't go, you know, I've got to get my prep in, or I've got to go training. Yeah. You know, even Christmas, you know, it can ruin Christmas because you've got to get your training in on that day, no days off. Yeah, so I think, you know, having that target, I'm going to win it once, then walk away for them, was a very big thing. Yeah. The actual process of it, excuse me, the actual process of it, of winning the title and retiring, was very hard. Yeah. It's been well documented that, you know, Olympic champions, world champions reach the pinnacle, you know, achieve the dream, and then excuse the language, but the next day you've got to go home and sit down and take a shit like everybody else. And it's a harsh reality. Yeah. It's, you know better than everybody else, and I suppose you spent all these years, you spent 20 years chasing this dream, and you achieve it, you get this huge euphoria, you think you're on top of the world, you know, everything's going to be amazing now, and then the next day, boom, you know, you're back at home doing the dishes and taking your kids to school, back to reality, and nothing's really changed, you know.
But I think with you though, you transition quite well, because obviously with your YouTube and with your commentating World's Strongest Man and stuff like that, you've kept yourself very busy. So was that like a ploy? Was that the intention? Was to just
the plan was there's no actual money in strongman. You know, to win the World's Strongest Man, you're talking, I think they've upped it a little bit now. I think you're talking probably about $45,000, maybe $50,000 for first place. And if you think about it, you know, people train all year for that one competition. And yes, it's a good wage when you put it in that way. But you don't win every year.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you come second, you're talking less than half of that. Yeah. You know, where's your other income come from? It's a tough sport. I was working full time up until 2 years before, and I managed to get a few sponsors. Yeah. The plan always was to win the World's Strongest Man and capitalise. Yeah. You know, use that title to do YouTube and endorsements, the appearances, Like, something like we're both sat here now doing this.
Yeah.
That was the plan, and I rode the wave.
Yeah.
Definitely
but the thing is,
still riding it.
But I admire how you've done it, because I'll be honest, like, for me, with that like a bodybuilding mindset, like I've never really thought about social media influencing like the YouTube game, and obviously this crept up so quick and it's like a huge thing now. Whereas in my head, I think I'm still stuck in, I've got to train twice a day, I compete for a living, I'm a bodybuilder in my head. So I'm trying to do that transition now, and it's when you start looking at algorithms and start chasing numbers, and because I think because of COVID as well, I'm going off track a little bit here, but because of the pandemic, I was always someone who built my career off meeting people face to face and expos and all over the world, and I loved that part of it, being personable with somebody. But with social media, you don't get that intimacy. You just kind of like, you're posting something and they're just numbers, like figures and stuff. So I've really struggled to get hold of the new world, like the influencing world. I've got a good presence and I've got a great following, but I just, for me, I need to try and like up my game on that, I think.
It's 5 years ago, like Instagram, when I won World Strongest Man, I wasn't even on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, I was just catching up with it. It's all kicked off at once, YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
I just want to move on to, I suppose, what these guys want to hear about injuries and failure.
Yes.
Because, like I said earlier, you don't win everything in life. You go to these competitions and you come second, third, fourth, fifth. And I can imagine you're a bit like me in it. Unless you're winning it, you've lost it.
Yeah, exactly.
Second place is the first loser.
Exactly.
Exactly. So how would you deal with coming second, third, fourth, or not making the finals? And how do you deal with injuries? How do you deal with the setbacks? Because they are the toughest things in life.
Yeah.
I would say that losses make the wins, but how do you deal with it?
I think it's important to have a strong network. Like, obviously your wife's been very supportive of you over the years and stuff, and so have I. I've had a great team around me who can pick the positives out of any negative, and like my wife was phenomenal in a lot of that. So in 2017 was my lowest part of my career. I was second in the world, I was the Arnold Classic champion, they pulled me up to win the Olympia, it was a massive hype about it, but basically I was told I had to move to America, so I upheavaled my life, I sold my house, sold everything I owned, I took my girlfriend, my wife now, over, and we started afresh 12 weeks out from the Olympia. A bit naive, living in America, I spent an absolute fortune trying to get a house, get a car. Just didn't have that support network around me other than my wife, which I put a lot of stress onto her. And I came sixth. I dropped to sixth, one of my worst placings, and I went into the deepest hole. I must admit, it was really difficult. 3 months, couldn't train, just couldn't get that motivation back. I thought career's over, all done, and it was just it was when basically my wife just gave me a big slap, said you need to sort it out and do what you love, do it for you, not for everybody else, and all this kind of stuff. And that's how I've kind of pulled myself back out of it. But injuries are a big thing. Like, I've been riddled with them in my career, but it's just about training smarter. It's about not letting it get to your head. I remember Dexter Jackson. I don't know if anyone knows Dexter Jackson, but he's an open class bodybuilder, and then he said to me about, you don't have to put mass weight on for your sport, you have to, but for us it's just getting that mind to muscle connection and getting that pump and that breaking the muscle fibre down. So he said he could do a workout with 2 kg dumbbells, and then for me I was like, right, I'm making excuses. If I want it bad enough, I'll do it, and that's exactly what I'm doing now. I tore my lat 6 weeks ago, and it was quite a bad injury, but I had a month off, and now I put everything in place. So I've got the best team around me. I'm in the gym at the minute doing anything I can, any movement I can, just to work around it, because in 26 weeks' time, my son is going to be in the front row of the Olympia in Las Vegas, and I need to make him proud, and I get shivers actually saying it, because that's what motivates me now.
No, that's really nice to hear. So that support system is super important.
Massive.
People always forget the stuff that happens behind the scenes, the wives, the girlfriends.
Yes.
Without them supporting and looking after the house, the kids,
Exactly.
washing your clothes, prepping your food, you're nothing.
Exactly.
You are nothing.
But I don't know if Jay Cutler said that. Jay Cutler, 4 times Mr. Olympia, he actually said, I said, why did you quit so early? Like, you had so much more in you. And he said, because I lost my winning formula, which was his wife. His wife did everything for him, and he said, I didn't have that winning formula anymore. And I was like, well, that's
Do you mean his wife left him?
Yeah, they split, yeah.
Right, and then he couldn't...
He didn't have that network. He just lost the drive for it.
It's a very sad thing to hear, but it's also a very nice thing to hear as well, that a man of that stature, needed his wife to progress, and when his wife left him, had to quit the sport, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
Near enough,
okay.
Near enough, yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I think we'll take a few questions from the crowd, if that's okay. Yes, sir.
So basically, you're just asking about Nick Walker, who's an open class bodybuilder. He's very young, and he's an absolute monster, mutant mass monster, and he's huge. And people are pipping him to be like the next Mr. Olympia. He's going to take over the sport and stuff. But for me, Nick is a great guy, and I love his work ethic. I love his confidence. He's very, very confident in himself, and I've always admired that, because I've never had that side of my game. I wish I was a bit more, I wouldn't say cocky, but more confident. Like, I wish I could hold my own a bit more. Whereas, Nick's got that. But personally, I'm not a massive fan anymore where it's going with the look of the open class. I think classic physique is where it should be at. So you're looking at the 70s, the 80s, like Lee Haney, all that beautiful physiques. And it was, bodybuilding was an art, wasn't it? When you used to look at them, you thought, wow, absolute phenomenal physiques. And I just feel like they've kind of lost that a bit and gone for that mutant mass. And I think Dorian Yates was the guy who kind of changed that era, wasn't he? If he went to the big guys. I respect it. I really hope, and obviously we've had quite a lot of bad rap at the minute as well, with people like dying basically. So I feel like it's getting too far dangerous now. And I think the likes of Chris Bumstead, Breon Ainsley, these physiques are just stunning, and you can aspire to look like them. And I think that's where we should really cap it, if I'm honest. But like I said, I'm inspired by the bodybuilders. I love their work ethic, their mindsets and stuff. And I trained with Dave Titterton. Remember Dave Titterton, Mr. Universe?
Yes, I do, yeah.
4 times Mr. Universe. He was a super heavyweight. He was 6'2", built like a brick shit out of it. So inspiring to train with. But at the same time, I never wanted to look like that. So it was. That's where I'm at with that.
Cool.
How much water do you take a day?
How much water do we, to both of us?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, okay. I mean, at the minute, if I'm training on a training day, you're probably talking about 10 litres of water a day. Wow. Thereabouts. I mean, that's a 2 litre jug. I'll get through 5 of them quite easily. But it's just, you'll be amazed. You don't piss 10 litres out. Just perspire it. You'll be amazed how much you lose through sweat. Yeah. Like, even you can't see us sweating now, but we'll be losing a lot of fluids just through sweat, really. Flying as well. If I do a flight, you can get upwards of like 15, 16 litres on over travel, because flights, they're very dry on the planes, and it draws the moisture out of you. So like flights really do pull the water out of you, and you have to drink more. So that's why when you're on a flight, you should really guzzle the water back. So about 10 litres a day and 16 litres a day if you're travelling.
So I'm not as extreme as that. I'm 5 to 6 litres a day. I consume a lot around my training though. So I try to at least 2 litres whilst I'm training, so just to keep hydrated. Put electrolytes into my drinks as well. But I've done 10 litres once, and I literally the time I come out of the toilet, I was back in, so I was literally back and forth, and I actually started to get a bit dizzy and stuff. And then we found out I was at the dangerous level. So it was basically you can technically drown from.
Yeah, you can.
If you take too much water, you can drown yourself. And I was at those. So I only did that once in my early career, because I thought, the more I drunk, the leaner I'd get, which it was stupid. But so 5 to 6 litres on average. What sort of supplements do you take?
So what sort of supplements do you take? I mean, for me personally, like, strongman is all about the protein and the fats and it's calories basically. So you try and orientate it around that. So you'd be like the mass gainers. Strength can be based a lot around creatine as well. So creatine is great for strength, but I'd also say be wary of creatine as well, because it leaves you susceptible for injuries. So even though it's a really great product, it's something that I found from experience that you can overdo creatine and it can actually dry the muscle out. So you've got to be careful of how much creatine you take. I've seen people like heaping creatine into the shakers, and I'm like, oh, like you've got to be very sensible on what you take. Obviously, amino acids, they have glutamines, glycines, all those, you just got to be sensible with it, really. But I think a good balance of pretty much a little bit of everything, like the L-taurines and all that, just get a little bit of everything. Multivitamins, there's a bit of skepticism on multivits, but I'll take one a day just to get it in there. So you've just got a little bit of everything, and that's how I work really. Massive calories, and then just throw a little bit of every single supplement.
Some will work. Put it all in, something will work.
What about yourself, Terry? What's your main ones?
Yeah. So for me, I take supplements for the absorption rate. So all my supplements were always based around my training. So I I take EAAs, pre and intra. I'll take a good fast-acting carb. So either cyclic dextrin, waxy maize starch, carb 10, Vitargo, or multidextrin. Multidextrin's a cheap carb, but tastes good, mixes well, spot on. Because I'm quite lean, I have to try and get the calories in however I can. Liquid form is perfect for me. So I take like 75 grams of carbs in my pre, 75 during, and 100 after. So I'm getting, quite a lot, like 250 of carbs around training. So I'll have 2 scoops of whey, so a good whey protein, whey isolate whey protein, and a multivit. I've always taken my multivits just to get everything in. Obviously, if you're fortunate you're sponsored, or if you're quite, like I say, get everything in, try it all. But they're the fundamentals for me, and it's always been around my training.
So how's the lat going?
You do yours first, yeah.
How's the bicep? And I might go down to Colorado. So if anyone's in the know, I tore my bicep off the bone back in, I'm going to say, pretty much coming up to about a year ago. It's like the end of July, I think it's start of August, top of my head. And it was a very, very tough recovery. It's not just like you get a little tear in the muscle, you can just let it be. I had to go and get surgery, I had to go get the tendon. My tendon rolled up my arm, so it was up here. I had to get an incision there on my forearm. The surgeon put his finger up, pulled the tendon down. It's all on my YouTube. I filmed it on the phone.
I watched it on his YouTube.
So I was awake when I had the surgery. So he puts his finger up, he pulls the tendon down. He then drills a hole in the bone, pulls it through, staples it on the other side, and then it bonds to the bone. That was hell on earth. It really was. The surgeon said, I recommend you don't do any impact with the bicep for a year. So you can do little movements, and you can start doing bits of weights, but you can't jolt it. And of course with boxing, that's what boxing is, it's jolting the muscle. So obviously I had to fight full with one arm, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way that things happen sometimes. And we're just getting up to about 10 months on, and we're getting to the point where it's feeling good. It's just about usable again. So it's been a long process, but you've got to go through these things, and I like the good old saying, tough times don't last, tough people do. Yeah. And I think I'm a tough guy. I can push through everything. I've had a lot of failures in my life, a lot of losses, a lot of injuries, and it's how you pick yourself up again after and keep moving forward. Will I be in Colorado? I don't know yet.
I'm going.
Okay, well, I hope to go. I've got to have a reason to go there, you know what I mean? It's like, we'll do a meet and greet or a VIP or something, so I probably will be there, but as of yet, no. And then onto your lat, Terry.
Yeah, my lat. Yeah, so that was a strange one. How you tear your lat, I don't know. But what it was is, I got, last year my feedback was everything they wanted, even changed my posing, changed everything on stage. And the head judge, Steve Weinberg, said that everything's where we need it to be now. You just need to bring your back up. Because I'm going against these guys who have got these huge turtle backs. And I've never been that guy. So I was like, right. So I flew over to America, went to Boston, and I was training with some of them. And I was like, stupidly, let them get in my head. And I was thinking, how how do you do it? What do you do to? And they were basically, I don't know if this was a lie because they're my competition, but they were saying they're doing 100 pull-ups every day between the training. So whatever they were doing 10 sets of 10. So like if you, and I thought I'm going to try this and see if it works, see if it brings my back up. So I was already training back twice a week. So I was doing a width session and a thickness session. So I was thinking between on chest, just doing 10 pull-ups and just doing 10 times or 5 times, whatever. And I could feel myself getting weaker and weaker as the weeks were getting on with my pull-ups. I was thinking, I should be getting better, I shouldn't be getting worse doing all these. And then, yeah, stupidly, I did a hanging leg raise, and I've done them for the last 20 years, twice, 3 times a week. And I just relaxed it, got lazy, and it just, I heard it tear, which wasn't the best feeling at all. But touch wood, I'm trying to stay in this positive mindset. I've had a good rest, and again, we was in the gym yesterday, the first time back in the gym, and I can actually, funnily enough, I can do everything, pressing, anything on the chest, arms, other than back. I still can't retract back yet. I can do everything else, so that's not going to stop me. So that, no matter what, I'll be ready in 26 weeks. It's just, might have hindered my back a little bit, but I can do a lot of hyper extensions, so I'm just going to have to do hyper extensions. That's about it. So yeah, we'll be okay.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for the question. And right, I think that wraps up the session with me and Ryan. So
thank you guys. I appreciate
again,
it.
thank you again.